we're going to go launch straight into them. So this is about some fundamental principles that I think about raising. No matter what stage you're at, some of this is going to apply to very, very early stage. In fact, the first half of it is more geared towards early stage. And then there's a bit at the end for the more later, more mature businesses. So it's about the sort of fundamentals. Now, this is the first. So the very first fundamental, bit of a Queen graphic here. Is this the real life or is this just fantasy? Now, this is what an investor will always make a judgment on straight away, really early on when they're reading your pitch deck, you know, and they're thinking, is this real life or is this fantasy? Is this some idea? Is this some harebrained idea or has this got legs? And this is what the whole theme of this talk is going to be about that. Are you presenting ideas or does it have legs? Is it more than just ideas? Because unfortunately, ideas are worth nothing. Now, I had to pull out this quote. You got the light bulb there for the last screen. Thomas Edison, very famous. I thought this was Einstein, but it's actually Thomas Edison. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And it's really that 99% perspiration that investors are buying, because ideas are cheap. Anyone can come up with an idea, but realizing that idea, making it actually work and actually having people taking it up, taking your offer up and excited about it and actually having legs and being off the ground, that is the hard bit. And that's the 99% perspiration. And you think about ideas, you also think about opinions. Opinions are almost as worthless. I would say there's one caveat to that, and that's if you have an opinion because you've been in an industry for a very, very long time, it's not really so much of opinion, it's kind of like fact, it's based in evidence. So, and that's going to be the theme of this talk. What percentage of your pitch deck is just ideas and opinions, and what percentage is hard evidence? Now, it's all going to be about evidence of the deck. Now, we're kind of conditioned from a long time, you know, from almost from an early age, because we're bombarded with television adverts with claims, this, that, and the other, and lots of things that aren't really substantiated. And we've actually got accustomed to talk like this. And now when we put our presentations together, we find that we're putting in unsubstantiated claims, we're putting in thoughts, ideas, and opinions. And what I really want to do is every time I work with a client, I strip out all of that. And I just go, right, what's fact? What can we prove? And what can we use with a hard body of evidence? And this is the best evidence of all. It's what goes through your cash register. It's sales. Sales is the very, very best evidence you can. I mean, you look at Dragon's Den or the American equivalent or whatever equivalent you have in your country. But when you're presenting to the Dragons, they always ask, what's your figures? What's your sales? What's your turnover? What's your profit? Because that, there's no disputing that. You know, you could present a really shoddy idea and investors would go, what a terrible idea. But then you go, well, actually, we've sold £1 million of this product. And suddenly it's like, okay, right, get you. But, you know, some of you are at a very, very early stage and you might not have sales yet to back it up. So what could you do then? Well, this is what you need to do. You need to maximize all the other factors of evidence that you can show that you've got something important, something that works. So thinking about things like product market fit, team's expertise, and connections. So I'm going to go through those one by one. So what evidence can you show that you have product market fit? Well, one thing you can do, even before you have sales, and sometimes even before you have a product, is to actually run an advertising campaign, right? You can run advertising campaign, online ads, even traditional ads, paid newspaper articles, whatever, magazines. But it's the return that you get on that ad spend. Now, it's brilliant with digital ads because you can really measure every little intricate detail of it. You know, so if you run a digital ad and you get higher than average click-through rates, you can show that as evidence as product market fit. You know, you can show that you've got a waiting list for a product that you've designed and put out there. And you can almost do all that before you have the product and then match the product to what people are asking for and what has the best return on your ad campaigns. You know, so that's actually a very powerful way to do things that people don't actually realize and don't actually do. And here's another way. If you're very early, you know, I did there's this concept with like shoe leather, clipboard, pen and paper, right? When I was my previous job, when I first went self-employed in 2007, was as a graphic designer. So I set up my own freelance business as a graphic designer, and I had a business coach, and I had some ideas for different products that I could sell. One of them was a branding workshop, and one of the things he made all the entrepreneurs was to go and with a clipboard and pen and paper and go to Waterloo Station and ask people. And I was so against it. I was like, I am not doing that. No way am I doing that. But then he said to me something very powerful. He said, well, how many other graphic designers are not going to do that? And it really actually made me think, yeah, you're right. Just by doing that, that actually separates me from 99% of all other people in my space. They're not prepared to do that. So just by going out there and talking to people with a clipboard, pen and paper, you can get so much amazing data, and you can get opinions and emotions as well, much more than you can for online surveys and focus groups. But that's another way of doing it. You can run those things as well, but it's very, very powerful to actually go and speak to people and record their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings, and also price points as well. You can get price points of people just by talking to them. So that's another body of evidence that you can get. So let's have a look at the other thing. So the other thing that investors are looking at, if you don't have sales, is potentially the expertise of the team, or in particular the founder. Now, if Elon Musk comes up with a pitch deck, you almost don't need to read it. It's like, yeah, I'll give you the money, because of his reputation. His reputation is enough for anyone to want to back him. Now, you can do the same. You can, and quite a lot of times I notice that people don't big themselves up, especially us Brits. We don't big ourselves up when it comes to our talking about our own achievements. Like if you've already achieved certain successes in business and achieved certain metrics, you can show that as a way of providing evidence that this new business is going to be successful, even though you don't have sales. You go, well, look at my track record. So the expertise and the track record of the founder is very, very important piece of evidence. And here's another one, the connections. So if you are an influencer with 1 million, 2 million, 10 million followers, and you think of a business idea or a concept or a product, and you push that, sure, an investor's going to see that and think, wow, I know that the influence that you have, the rollout of that is going to give it more success. So even though you haven't developed a product, I can give you some money to back that, because I can see the reach that you have. Now, the other way to do this, obviously, is to tap into someone with that reach. You can actually have a founding member or a partnership or a friendship or some sort of connection with someone that has 1 million, 2 million, 3 million followers. And a lot of my clients do have that, and that is another factor that will get investors excited. And they're all thinking of this. They're all thinking, how is this de-risked? So the whole presentation that they're seeing, they'll always make a calculation on everything that you say. Is it de-risking it? Is it de-risking it? It's just starting the bar is so high, and the bar for failure and the bar for like them saying no is so high. And then as you keep giving them bits of evidence, it's going to de-risk until the risk is so low. It's never going to be zero, of course, because there's no such thing. But if you de-risk it enough, you've got the investor's attention, and they will invest. So here's a great example. Now, if you take away anything from this show, is that I did a very interesting interview with this guy, Neil Smith. He's just raised 1.7 million from angels. He's still raising, and he's still doing it. Now, he did that without having a product. He didn't write a single line of code, but he did all those things that I've just been telling you about. He is a ex-TV exec, so he was able to get big celebrities with huge reach, like Bear Grylls, to front it. He ran an ad campaign, and he got all the stats from that ad campaign, and he used that as evidence, and he used all of that to raise 1.7 million. And I had a fantastic interview with him. It really opened my eyes to what's possible even before you have product, let alone have sales. You don't have a product, So if you want to check that episode out, please do. It's a really interesting episode. If you go to youtube.com/@scrubthedeck, that'll get to my channel. And you can see it's episode 3. Really, really worth a watch if you're kind of inspired, if you don't have some of those sales yet. So another question. how much money do you really need? Yeah, this is a question. This is another thing that's going to de-risk it. That if you ask for less money, it's less risk. And that will come down really to talking about what is your growth strategy. Now, I've read so many decks and they have all big projections, figures, and they don't talk about their growth strategy. They don't go into real detail. And it's that detail that actually makes it a growth strategy and not an idea. And again, it's based in evidence, it's based on previous successes, tactics, everything you've learned. The growth strategy slide is such a vital one and such a one that's commonly missed out. It's a missing piece of the jigsaw. So you must have a growth strategy. And with that growth strategy, you could also postulate, and the investor sometimes does this, what if I only gave you 50K? Now, 50K is still a lot of money and it can make a difference to a lot of businesses, but it might be a 10th or 100th of what you've asked for, right? But still, if you have a good coherent growth strategy, you should be able to plug in an amount of money, no matter how big or small, that would still deliver a result for the investor. And then it can get you thinking, okay, well, how much money do I really need? Can I de-risk it to a point where it's more likely that I'll get the investment? Now, I was on a webinar from this guy, Tony Robbins, very influential, amazing speaker, been around for decades. And he was talking about, he said something very powerful, which I thought was interesting. Business is fundamentally just two things: innovation and marketing. So what does that mean? So if you obviously the innovation is the ideas and what you've done, but the marketing aspect, yeah, there's no point in having innovation if you can't tell anyone about it, if no one knows about it, and there's no point in marketing something that everyone else is doing. So you definitely need those two things. And he's kind of condensed it to say that it's kind of just those two things, really, when you break everything down. So that sort of begs the questions: how can you become a marketing expert in your niche? Because that's kind of what you're going to have to be when, even before you raise. Now, a lot of people, they ask for money to do the marketing, and that's a very big mistake, because people need to, especially investors, understand how much money is wasted doing the wrong marketing campaigns. So you've got to prove that you can be a marketing expert in your niche, and that's what you need to become. So what are ways you can do that? Well, one of the first things you can do is by just doing it, getting on with it, trial and error, running campaigns, putting small amounts of budget into campaigns, seeing what the results of that campaign are, seeing what messages resonate in your audience, in your market, measuring that, improving it, measuring it, improving it. Eventually you'll get some metrics and some messaging and some different media types that really work and really resonate, and then you can scale that up. You can take that evidence to an investor and you can scale that up. Now, how can you improve this? Well, there's lots of online courses, there's lots of good experts out there, but also there's just tons of stuff on YouTube, and pick the platform. You could just do it through one platform. For me, it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the platform that I'm always on, and that's the advert. And I'm just dabbling into advertising now, and I'm going to admit that I'm going to be spending money. I'm going to be spending money to get the evidence I need to improve and improve and improve. And just understand those first few £100 or first couple of £1,000 are going to be all about just finding the right message, so, and I'm going to be using YouTube and trial and error. But of course, you can hire an expert. If you've got a bit of a budget, you can just hire them as a freelancer, as and when you need, get them to implement it. That'll save time, but it will cost money. And it's always that time-money balance that we have to juggle as a founder. But how about this? Potentially, you could make that expert a co-founder if they absolutely love the business. A little thumbs up there from David. if that expert loves the business and loves what you're doing, to have a co-founder or have a member of the team that's a marketing expert that's going to bring in the money, bring in the clients, that is gold for an investor to see that in the team. So that's very, very powerful. Or you could potentially partner with an agency if you're doing more scale. You've done the trial and error, you've got the messaging, then an agency can maybe take it up a level, but you're partnering with them and you actually put that as part of your growth strategy and part of your team and external team. Or, through your network, you can outsource it, finding someone trusted, someone that's got results for other people, and outsourcing it through the network. Now, if you are already a mature business, I know all this, I already run a mature business. What about me? Right. So some of you watching this be like, yeah, done all this, know it, doing it. This is obvious. So let's look at what a mature business is going to look at. So again, it comes down to growth strategy. Now, even on very mature businesses, I've seen people forget this slide, just not put it in, and it's absolutely vital that it is in. And your growth strategy here is going to be more towards a kind of world domination. This is the thing. So you're actually going to scale up everything. You've got much bigger plans. And I'll go on to some of those strategies are, but really it's showing that ambition, but still having a realistic hold on what you can do with certain budgets. So obviously you've got your projections in there, and it's about reaching those lofty projections. You want money to scale aggressively, not just to stay where you are, but to scale aggressively and to then go out and destroy your competition. Maybe you've got something that's quite cutting edge and you're worried about other competitors coming into that space, and you want to get your investment in now so you can get ahead of them and either buy them up or just put them out of business. They won't be a competitor because you've got the money, you've got the capital, you can move at speed and you can scale aggressively. Or you might want it to expand into new markets. New markets, you've sold to a certain market, and you can then work out those other markets around that and work out messaging and new campaigns to get to those markets. Or you might want to expand to new locations. Now, this is something that, again, I would recommend that you're very specific about. For example, I had a client that had a growth strategy, and it was about going into Europe, but there was a lot of detail there. There was reasons why they were going to certain cities, and it's because the brands and partners that they are working with needed them to go into those cities. They requested them to go into cities in Denmark, in Sweden, in France. And there was actually a very coherent strategy and reason why they wanted to go into those locations. So when you present that, say, look, I need money to do this, you can see on the other side, there's sales there. There's already a thing. It's not just, oh, we could go into Europe, And then the other thing is to grow your team. So if you're delivering, a high level and you want to put much more money into marketing, all the other overheads are going to go up. You need to grow your team, but that's all part of that coherent story that you're putting through in your pitch deck. And this is what it comes down to. It's all about time, really. So the money that you get for investment is going to enable you to do all this faster. And the time works both ways. The time for you, I can do this faster, but you want to also put the pressure back on the investor to say, look, the time is now. We need to do this now, and give them a whole load of evidence and reasons why now is the time to do it and not in 6 months' time. So time is really, really the factor as well. Again, that time-money balance. Now, we've all seen this hockey stick growth chart, and every pitch deck has this kind of either a sort of a gentle thing or a spike. But usually companies do follow this trajectory. The successful ones, you'll go along for a long time, and then suddenly you'll hit an inflection point, you'll go up. Now, a lot of people, they want to get investment at a very early stage. They want to come in here, and then you often met with investors saying you're too early, which you are. So this is one point in the journey. After only a short amount of time, you're asking for investment. Now, other people think that actually wait a bit longer and then ask for the investment, and then after the investment, there's going to be a spike. Now, that's also the wrong way to think about it, because it doesn't always equal, one doesn't always equal the other. A lot of changes are going to happen. You might go down before you go up. What you really need to do is you need to ask for money here. You need to hit an inflection point yourself by engineering, or just naturally things will happen. A natural traction spike, an event, something will happen to spike this growth. And that is the point where you want to ask. And that's an exciting point for investors to come into. And it also puts time pressure on them. So things are taking off, things are happening. And it's all about that. You see the numbers kind of fairly steady. And then suddenly the last quarter is a much, much higher. Then you can ask for investment. That's the very best time to ask for investment. And of course, all of that presentation is backed up with evidence. And that's the core theme of this talk. Now, if you want help with this, that's what I do. I could help people get their pitch decks together, and I could also help with investor connections. If you are able to go to this location, scrubthedeck.com, welcome, that you'll see, and let me just show you if I can. That will take you to this page. So you'll see a little intro video from me. You can book a strategy session here, which I'll have slots for. You can see the clients I've worked with, some of the other clients that I've raised for, lots and lots of testimonials and stuff that I've done. And then if you click through to book a strategy session, yeah, you'll get this form. Pick a slot. There's a few questions which have helped me to understand where you're at in the process, and then you can book an appointment. And